Welcome back to AFA Today. Fred Jackson sitting in for Kevin McCullough. If you missed the top of the program, Kevin was supposed to be here. As you're aware, he does his show from New York City. He was on his way to work this morning. Apparently a very bad accident ahead of him, about a mile or so, and so traffic was so badly backed up, about 4 hours. If you've been to New York, you know what traffic problems are like. So Kevin could make it today, should be back in the chair again tomorrow. Two items on the agenda today that we're talking about, what is happening in Iraq. Basically, Iraq is returning by force. A Sunni terrorist group is on the march in Iraq, taking over major cities like Mosul and Tikrit, and are vowing to march on Baghdad. These are the groups that would be akin to Saddam Hussein. The question being asked, 4,000 American soldiers lost their lives in the Iraqi campaign. $2 trillion of taxpayers' money. So what was accomplished? Did these people go in and take control once again? We ought to be, and many people have said this for many years, be changing our whole mindset about this. The idea of going in, rescuing countries, and they're going to really appreciate and turn into America-like countries. It's not going to happen until there's a change of heart. Islam is a religion of force. And it will always be that way, and unless there's a change of heart in this country, and that's the thrust of Brian Fisher's column today, which we'll find on One News Now. The other thing we're talking about, immigration reform. It's a big issue, continues to be a big issue. Some people say, we're not getting anywhere with this. Well, here's what's going on, folks. The problem is getting worse and worse. Despite what you hear from Washington, from the Obama administration, things are getting worse and worse. They just keep on loading this problem on the states. The latest happening, as you've heard, is children unaccompanied by adults are streaming across the border. As we say, so much for the idea that the border is secure when a 9-year-old can get into this country illegally. And this is happening. It's becoming more and more a burden. And there are some groups, some Christian groups, who say we just ought to welcome all these people and take care of them, food, shelter, the whole thing. Vice President Biden yesterday saying we ought to have an uninterrupted, constant, unrelenting stream of new immigrants to bolster the national economy. Well, we have probably anywhere from 12 to 20 million people living in the country illegally, and they are not bolstering the economy. It's not working. And when I hear people saying we need to secure the border first, I agree with them, but it's very naive to think that we're doing it. As I say, they become a political football. The belief is, really in both political parties, that if we grant amnesty to these folks, and at the bottom line, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be amnesty. We're going to let these people stay. That is the broad definition of amnesty. Yes, they may have to pay a fine, but they're still going to be allowed to stay. If we grant all these people amnesty, don't you know the problem is just going to continue? And that is the debate right now, is what's going to happen. Is anybody really interested in real immigration reform? All right, let's go back to our phones. Andy in Ohio, welcome to AFA Today.
Thank you. I had the opportunity probably approximately 8 years ago at a nightclub to talk with someone. I thought each person appeared to be Middle Eastern, and they were. And I asked them, why were they in this country? And they said they were on vacation, and said they were from Iraq. And in the conversation, a person told me they were an interpreter for our troops, asking if his life had ever been in danger, and he said yes. And I, had asked him, is it worth it? Are you glad to do what you're doing? And he said yes. And I guess I would say that we accomplished a lot over there. We can't give the people their freedom. We can give an opportunity, some hope for some freedom, and of course, it is to be expected that evil and violence is going to come back when there's good people with guns that are defending against that evil. And it's up to the Iraqi people to eventually be able to defend themselves against that evil, to at least give themselves a chance. Because most people in any human race want to be free and to work with some law and order in our society. And I think we accomplished a lot. Despite what anybody else wants to say, but there's no way that we can finish the job. That's up to the Iraqi people.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. And I would agree with you, Andy. I think there are some good people. There are some people in countries like Iraq, like Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Tunisia, Egypt. Yes, they want freedom, but it cannot be accomplished because, unfortunately, those people don't rise to the top. And the question that's out there today, given what is happening in Iraq, was it worth the bloodshed of 4,000 American soldiers dying and $2 trillion spent to see what is happening today? Evil is returning. That's the reality there. And the question then comes is that are we going to keep doing this? Are we going to keep doing what we've done in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya? For what purpose? What is the purpose of this? You know what? When we talk about, and let's mesh these two stories together, when we talk about immigration, I have a much easier time, let's say, for people from Iraq, Afghanistan, who truly would like to get away from that oppression, and come to the United States. Hey, listen, I'm willing to talk to them because I agree with you. There are people who want freedom, but unfortunately, those people never get an opportunity in those countries to rise to the top and be part of the government there. Jerry in Alabama, welcome to AFA Today. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Hey, I just got to comment on about our participation in the Middle East. I also am a former vet from Desert Shield, Desert Storm.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. My personal opinion is that the way we should handle the Middle East is that we should let the Middle East and the whole world know that y'all can work out your differences. Just don't bother Israel because we've got their back. Just let it be like that. And if someone wanted some sincere help, then let them finance it or find the finances for us to not have to spend money on, and let the American people agree on it before we go over there. Because Kuwait's got all kind of money, and so did Iraq. And if I'm not mistaken, Iraq has just had lots of money stolen by Al Qaeda. So basically, that's my comment.
Well, Jerry, you make some really good points, several good points there. One of the things that always irked me is that when our campaign in Iraq was finished, we didn't get much of a break in oil prices coming from Iraq. Libya, much the same way, because things are still in a mess there. So there were no rewards for what was done. And I couldn't agree more with our caller there with regards to the one exception where we need to be. We need to have the back of Israel. Israel is the only true democracy in that area of the world. It is the only country where there is still true freedom. And when it comes to democracy, yeah, it isn't always pretty, folks. It really isn't. It can be politically, there can be upheavals. And we've seen that in Israel. We see it in this country. But at least there is the freedom to choose. And it is the reason why in Israel there are approximately 1 million Muslim citizens there. These are Muslims that understand the difference of living in Israel as opposed to an Islamic-run country. They understand that. So I agree with you, caller. These countries have to decide for themselves what they really want. Yeah, we need to go in and deal with problems when they are a serious threat to the national security of the United States, as Saddam Hussein was, as I believe Muammar Gaddafi was a serious threat to this country, and it needs to be changed. But the hearts of those people have to be changed. And yes, let us always keep the back of Israel, because we are promised we will be blessed if we bless Israel. Bob in New Mexico, welcome to the program. Go ahead.
Hey, Brad, I'm going to make 2 quick points. One on Iraq.
Okay.
This Iraqi military that we took the time to train and arm, they hear the bad guys are coming. They're throwing down their weapons and hopping the nearest bus out of town. We're supposed to go back there and do it all over again? Point number 2. I worked very hard all my life and paid my taxes. And now I am in very poor health. There's days I can't even walk, and I live by myself, but I take care of myself. And I have given up on trying to go to an emergency room or a clinic to get looked at, because if I walk in or I take my wheelchair in, I'm behind 50 or 60 women that don't speak English. They all have 3 to 5 kids that are all on Medicaid and getting free health care. And now there's tens of thousands of more kids coming over the border that are going to get to see a doctor before I do.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up and talk and let you and listen to you.
All right, Bob. Thank you very much. And I'll tell you what, Bob makes another point. It is all good and well for our politicians in Washington and our clergy members to talk about benevolence. But now you have these people like Bob who live this problem every day. You know, these folks who talk about immigration reform and who are really advocates for, now they don't like that word amnesty, but that's what it is. They're advocates for it. They live a long, long way from where the problem areas are. But as our caller from New Mexico there, and we hear these stories, folks, all the time. He goes to an emergency room and he's behind 40 or 50 other people who are most likely in this country illegally. But they are getting served. They are being taken care of. That is not right, folks. That is simply not right. And that is what has to be changed. Now, we talk about a mentality change in countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. There has got to be a mentality change here. I'm all for helping someone, but that ought to be my responsibility. I ought to take the money out of my own wallet if I'm going to do that. But you know, when you're in government, you're spending everybody else's money. So it's very easy to come up with these ideological statements about how we should be helping people. But you know what those people are saying? I'm all for helping people, but use somebody else's money and don't let it impact me. Now that, folks, is very selfish. We ought to be listening to the people who live in New Mexico, who live in Arizona, and other of these states who have been greatly impacted by this. And I mentioned those 2 states in particular. People are suffering there. American citizens, taxpayers are suffering because of what is going on here. And rarely are their stories being told and being given the attention of our politicians in Washington and of our many clergy members who are advocates for amnesty. Ken, in Tennessee, go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. King. I agree with the thing about protecting Israel, but also on this immigration thing. We're a country of laws. The best way we can help them is to let them understand that they have to go and do the legal thing by applying for citizenship. And plus, they can come over and get a visa. They can work, but that doesn't mean that they should have all the benefits of an American citizen until they become an American citizen. And, we got these citizens that have lived here all their lives, worked, and they don't even get the services that they've helped provide and support, And as far as Iraq, we're going to have to just start using tactical nukes on these people, these evil groups, if that's the only way we can get them to understand that they're just abusing the whole area there.
Yeah, as we say, those problems are not going to be resolved until there is a reality check in both of those cases. A reality check with regards, and I just wanted to go back what the Vice President was saying in the speech to the National Association of Manufacturers. He believes in a constant, unrelenting stream of new immigrants, not dribbling, he says, to bolster the national economy. We need it badly from a purely economic point of view. Mr. Vice President, have you checked the unemployment rate lately? Have you checked the millions of people who have given up trying to find jobs because of the economic mess that we are in this country because of policies from this administration? And you're saying by letting a whole bunch of other people come in that magically is going to resolve our economic problems? We have in this country, we have a president who wants to raise that minimum wage, believes, $15 an hour like they've done out there in Seattle. How is that going to be good for the national economy? $15 an hour for everybody? $15 an hour employee at McDonald's. You know, McDonald's, you're going to start charging $10 for a Happy Meal. How long is that going to last? Reality check, folks. Reality check. That's what is needed. All right, we got time, I think, for one more call. Let's try. Guy in Ohio. Guy, go ahead.
Hi. My comment about the immigration reform is I understand. I came from Canada, moved over here 14 years ago. I did everything legally.
Mm-hmm.
I've also become a U.S. citizen.
Mm-hmm.
I called immigration about sponsoring my son over, who is 37 years old, has skilled trades and that. You know what they told me how long it would be to get him over here legally?
Years.
10 years.
Oh.
And the immigration officer said to me, "Lucky you're not from Mexico." I said, "Why?" He said it'd be 20 years. The problem with the immigration system is, when I first came over, I lived over here from 81 to 84. I did it in 48 hours.
Yeah.
This time it took me a year and a half.
Mm.
And now what they've done is they've made it so difficult to come over here legally. That's why you have people coming over here illegally, because trying to do it legally, it takes years and years and years. And I don't understand why.
Well, Guy, thank you for your call. I appreciate that. I'm glad you did it legally. But as we said, immigration reform, yes. The problem is when they talk reform, they talk amnesty, and that is the huge problem. And as our caller pointed out, when people try to do it legally, they're punished. And that is what's got a lot of people upset. Hey, listen, got to run. Been good to be with you today. Fred Jackson sitting in for Kevin. Pray for Kevin. Hopefully he's out of that traffic jam in New York City. We'll be back in the chair again tomorrow. Stand by for some more great programming here at American Family Radio Talk. Ryan Fisher standing by. We'll see you again real soon. Bye for now.